The 17th Amendment thing, the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC, coming up with the right-wing strategy since 1970 something, right out of the Powell memo. One of the founders was Paul Weyrich. I don't want everybody to vote. Frankly, our leverage in the election goes up as the voting populace goes down. Yeah. That guy. That guy's organization, the American Legislative Exchange Council, which rewrites and creates state laws, they got this new one to basically undo the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment came about because a copper baron in Montana literally, it used to be that the state legislatures decided who was going to be their senator, who they were going to send to Washington, D.C. as their senator. And this guy stood at the door to the Senate, or to the state Senate, and said, "I have a pocket full of envelopes, and in each envelope is a $1,000 bill. And anybody who votes for me, I will hand you the bill. I will hand you the envelope as you walk out the door." And you can actually find online a picture of the original envelopes. It's pretty amazing. And he got elected. Surprise, surprise. And when he went to Washington, D.C., the senators in D.C. were so horrified by this because the news had preceded him that they refused to seat him. So the 17th Amendment came out of all these progressive changes that came out of, in part, the crash of 1796-97, which led arguably to the McKinley administration. McKinley was assassinated in 1901. His vice president, Teddy Roosevelt, took over. Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, was a raging progressive and started pushing for this kind of stuff. And eventually we got the 17th Amendment, which said that the people in the state vote for the senators, not the state politicians. And then, that was followed by, as I recall, the 19th Amendment, I think in 1920, which said that women could vote as well. This all came out of that progressive era. So why are conservatives trying to take the vote for the United States Senate away from the people in their states? I've been scratching my head on this. I had a big debate, on our TV show last night about it, and with a couple of conservatives who are like, "Oh, it's a states' rights issue." Well, it's not a states' rights issue. I mean, if anything, the Ninth Amendment says that the people have all the power. The 10th Amendment says anything that the people don't have and the federal government hasn't taken then goes to the states. I think the people trump the states. So there's nothing unconstitutional about the 17th Amendment. So why are they trying to do it? Well, they're trying to do it because you have state legislatures, like Michigan, for example, where a majority of the people actually voted for Democrats, but Republicans control the House and the Senate. And Michigan's not alone in this. There are a number of states like this where the state appears to be a red state, but actually the majority of the people voted Democratic. It's the same thing with the U.S. House of Representatives. 1.5 million people more voted for Democrats than Republicans in the last election, and yet the Republicans control the House. And the reason why is because of gerrymandering. They redistricted in 2010. They redrew the congressional districts. So if they can now, you've got states that are really blue states, they're Democratic states, but they're legislative. So if you have a popular statewide election, statewide, people are going to vote for a Democratic senator. But the House and Senate in that state are Republican. I mean, like in Michigan, you got Debbie Stabenow. She's a Democrat. She represents the whole state. Everybody in the state votes for her. But if the state legislature made the decision, there would be a Republican in the United States Senate from Michigan. And that's why they're trying to blow up the 17th Amendment. And now that's the minutia of why they're trying to blow it up. Here's the real reason. If Republicans cannot win elections fair and square, they rig the game. That's what it comes down to. Back in 2000, Jeb Bush and Katherine Harris, whose husband committed suicide apparently yesterday, and our condolences to their family. He's apparently been sick, which I don't know the details of this, but it raises the issue of whether the death with dignity laws like in Oregon and Washington State are something that we should be taking nationwide, where somebody who has, and I don't know his situation, but somebody who is dying and is in enormous pain should be able to simply take, drink a couple ounces of orange-flavored stuff that's just a giant overdose of phenobarbital or something like that, and quietly go to sleep with dignity, rather than, scrounging around for a gun and blowing their brains all over the living room or whatever, But in any case, Republicans, if they can't win elections fair and square, they steal them. They rig the game. So Katherine Harris and Jeb Bush back in 2000 knocked 60 to 80,000 African Americans off the voting rolls in Florida, which got George W. Bush within 500 votes of, turns out when they finally did the recount a year later, 2 weeks after 9/11, it was reported in the New York Times that Al Gore actually got the most votes in Florida, no matter how you figured it, if you looked at the statewide count. A little-known fact, but there it is. Al Gore, the only president of the United States who was never president of the United States. But in any case, they rig elections. It's what Ken Cuccinelli tried to do in Virginia. And I haven't heard the latest on the AG's race. Maybe Jim will inform me during the break. But it didn't work for the governor and lieutenant governor. I don't know what the situation is with regard to the AG, the attorney general there, the guy who wants to force women to report their miscarriages to the local police department. So they try to rig the elections. They do it with voter suppression laws. They do it with gerrymandering. They do it with cutting down on the number of places where people can vote in Democratic districts and expanding the number of places where people can vote in Republican districts. And now they want to do it by changing how the Senate is picked out, because they know they're a dying party. Demographics are going totally against them.